Welcome everyone. This is the HBCU Black History Month, Grind City Media Memphis Grizzlies, the HBCU Experience, Education, Culture, and Impact panel discussion. I'm your host and moderator, Michael Wallace, Grind City Media Senior Editor. Every year, this time of the year is such a special and a unique opportunity. We've been doing this with the Memphis Grizzlies and our foundation and our partners hosting Black History Month, engagement opportunities and content, but a pillar of that engagement and options and process that we go through is the HBCU panel discussion. This is my third or fourth year. I'm honored. It's a privilege. We know what HBCU means in our community. Historically Black colleges and universities have produced doctors, lawyers, entertainers, people that contribute at every phase and every facet of our functioning society throughout history. It didn't just start now. It's been a long-standing tradition of excellence and pride. And in the vein of that excellence and pride, I have a panel discussion of 5 members here that are going to be helping us launch into the discussion about the culture, the impact, and the educational benefits of attending HBCUs from a historical standpoint. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump right into introducing our esteemed panel. First, we're going to start off with Trevia Chapman, 2021 Grizzlies HBCU Empowerment Award honoree, graduate of Tennessee State University. So she's a Tiger, just like fellow Tigers that are on this panel as well. Senior Vice President and Memphis Marketing Manager with Bank of America, and a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Chapman. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And also Corey Allen, founder and president of HBCU Awareness Foundation. He's a past HBCU Empowerment Award honoree for 2020. Corey also is a graduate of let me say it again, the Grambling State University. So he's a brother of mine from that standpoint. So I'm glad to always have him back here as well. And also the assistant store manager for Lowe's. So welcome again, Corey. Welcome in with us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Next is Dr. Ivy R. Taylor. She is the president of Russ College in Holly Springs, Mississippi. I have a long line of relatives that are graduates and contributors to Russ College, so it's good to have family back on here with us as well. Dr. Taylor is a former mayor of San Antonio, Texas. There's another connection in San Antonio there. I interned in San Antonio the same summer when Greg Popovich was named the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, so that dates me a little bit as well there. Dr. Taylor received her academic degree from Yale University, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and the University of Pennsylvania. Her dissertations at the University of Pennsylvania focused on leadership at historically Black colleges and universities. Welcome, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
All right, next up, Lori Evans. She's a familiar face around here. We have her every single year, every single time that we do this HBCU night, HBCU week, Black History Month. She's a part of the Grizzlies family and forever will be. Lori is the president of the Jackson State University Memphis Chapter Alumni Association. She's a graduate of Jackson State University and is Miss Jackson State University 1988 and 89, member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So she has a sister on the panel as well. She's an inaugural honoree of the Grizzlies HBCU Empowerment Award for 2019, as I said before. And she is also the Customer and Community Engagement Manager for Region 1. Thank you, Lori, for joining us again, as always.
Thank you. And I just want one correction. I was Miss JSU 1998, 99.
That's 98, 99. I said 88, 89.
Yeah.
See, my bad. Because see, we joked about this. We joked about this in pre-production, and I apologize for that.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
See, you were embracing the age before, right? And I just added 10 more years to it.
You did.
My bad. My apologies for that. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Okay, and last but not least, Delcinia Pegues, President, National Pan-Hellenic Council Incorporated of the Memphis metropolitan area. She's also a graduate of the University of Mississippi and the University of Phoenix, and a member of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Delcinia also recently turned a hobby of crafting things for friends into a successful, small, Black-owned business. Shout out to that, because that's one of the pillars of what we're doing in Black History Month. We're shining a spotlight on minority-owned businesses and helping them spread awareness and empowering that initiative as well. So thank you all for joining us. We'll get started with the panel discussion questions because we have a lot to get to in a short time to get there, but let's have fun with it. And I want to work some of the questions around the horn, and there are going to be some that I'm going to ask specifically. But we'll start with the general question that's open to all panelists. And that, to start, I'd like to open this question by asking, when you hear the phrase historically Black colleges and universities, what comes to mind?
Legacy.
The same word that I was thinking: history, legacy, and opportunity. That's what came to mind for me.
I hear greatness.
I hear talent and culture.
I hear the opportunity, the things that can happen to you and for you there. Once you leave, once you're there, it's the opportunity.
Opportunity, legacy, greatness, culture, impact, history, all of those things combined, because that's a powerful acronym. And we all, it unite, I would say unity as well, because it unites all of us. And, you know, most teams and most schools are united by the conference that they play in athletically or things of that nature, but HBCUs incorporates all of that. And I would say unity is one that comes to mind in terms of what I think of when I hear HBCUs. Travia, we want to go to you for the next question. HBCUs have a rich and a long history. Why is there still a debate for many regarding the value of HBCUs in some circles?
Yes, and when you say the word value as a banker, you know, I'm thinking about several layers of what that has to do about money. HBCUs indeed have a long, rich history. However, in my opinion, the debate of the HBCU's value at its core is fundamentally tied to racial inequality. It's the devaluation of Blackness. I'll give you an example, again, going back to the banker by utilizing property value. According to the Brookings Institute, if you take one property with similar amenities, build one in a majority neighborhood and build another in a minority neighborhood, the house in the minority neighborhood is worth 23% less than the house in the majority neighborhood, simply because the neighborhood is Black. The irony of that is if gentrification happens, that same neighborhood, that same dirt instantly becomes more valuable. It's again the devaluation of Blackness. The same principles apply with HBCUs, except for the fact that HBCUs rarely have the same amenities as PWIs. Both should be regarded by the states as prestigious institutions of higher learning. However, HBCUs receive significantly less state and federal funding than PWIs. One study that I had the opportunity to look up said that there are 4 schools in one state in the South. 2 are PWIs, 2 are HBCUs. Again, the same state, same dirt. The PWIs receive nearly 50% more in state and federal funding per pupil than HBCUs. It's a harsh reality in this debate that institutions and government invest in things that they see value in. But the debate is simple. We've been telling folks for years that greatness comes out of HBCUs. And to stop devaluing HBCUs, HBCU administrations lead their schools against many obstacles. I mean, HBCU graduates support to the best of our abilities, even when faced with pay gaps and lack of generational wealth to create rich endowments. I mean, the resilience alone is value earned. I think about all of what's going on at Jackson State with Deion Sanders coming in to try, change the game and level the playing field. So the value tide is indeed changing, but again, looking at it from a monetary standpoint, that is the reason why people continue to say, back to your original question, what's that debate regarding the value? It's what people see the value in and how we own our own story in saying what the value of us is at HBCU.
Great response there. Absolutely great response. Rich, impactful response with a lot to unpack there. And, along those same lines, Corey, you founded the HBCU Awareness Foundation and have made it your mission to spread awareness and exposure and create opportunities for not just potential students, but also their families for generations now. You've gone from creating a HBCU classic to now having 30 HBCUs participating in college fairs, not only in Tennessee, but in Mississippi and Arkansas. So when you have an HBCU, or I should say, why should a historically Black college and university be at the top of any prospective students' list when it comes to going to college for that next level of experience?
Well, HBCUs offer a unique cultural opportunity for students to learn in an environment that's supportive for the individual that is there in a different way than a predominantly white school may not offer. If you look at what Ms. Chapman said, there's so many greatness that has come from HBCUs. So when students are there, they're getting the value, they're getting so much there. I mean, the opportunities that you look at people who've gone HBCUs, they're providing internships. You look at now, so many companies are going to HBCUs, grabbing those students because now they look at their value, look at what they're getting. And the funny thing about it is it's been there now, it's been there 20 years ago, 10 years ago, been there 20 years ago. And we're producing greatness. And every institution that comes to my fair all has something unique about them. And that's what an HBCU can do. That same student from Memphis may have a 2.5, and all they ever saw in their life was University of Memphis, Mississippi State, and Southern Miss. But they go right there to Russ and get in, be successful, join every opportunity, every activity they can. They come out to be a better person. But then they thought they could never go to school with a 2.5. But they can go right there to Russ, right there to Philander, get 2.5, they in there. So kids, the opportunity is there for those kids.
And you talk about opportunities, and the opportunity for our institutions, HBCUs, to meet students where they are and
Right.
continue the development process, to continue to build together in a nurturing environment. I remember the first time when I saw Gramblin's campus coming off of I-20, going up that hill. And then I saw, I came down the hill that night, it was evening, and the city just lit up. It looked like its own oasis right there. And I knew from that moment on, and I saw that sign, a place where everybody is somebody. And I knew that place was for me. So I'll get off my high horse then, because I don't want anybody to get jealous or anything like that and regret their college decisions. But having said that, as a fellow Grambling guy, I want to ask you this. What is that sensation and that feeling that you've experienced students feel when they get off of these college tours and they step foot on these campuses for the first time?
Oh, I can remember my first tour, and the greatest thing, the foundation has done 18 college tours. So my very first one, when I didn't realize it was just a fair. So I said, let me get a bus, take kids to Grambling. Took them to Grambling, didn't know what to expect. And every tour I do is actually called High School Day. So you're looking at other students, you're looking at either 600 to another 3,000 kids at that school. And there's activities. You're taking kids who's A, never been anywhere, or B, just never been on a Black college campus. But when you come back, they're thanking you for that experience. They're seeing people, A, look like them, B, trying to get them to come there to be a part of that legacy that they're doing, that greatness. So when you're taking kids to visit schools that never thought, or you finding people to sponsor them to go somewhere, it's like, I never knew I can go here. But now you can go because you've seen it. It's different when you come to my fair and you see 30 HBCUs, but when you attend one for a day visit, it's the excitement is there for those students.
Thank you, Corey. Dr. Taylor, let me come to you next. And first and foremost, congratulations on behalf of our panel on you being named the new president at Rust College. This past May in 2020, as you navigated some of these challenges here as we move forward. So congratulations on your appointment there. And we're fortunate to have you in our Mid-South region. We know that the majority of HBCUs were started between the years of 1865 and 1900, primarily because Black students didn't have any other options and opportunities to attend institutions of higher learning. HBCUs have come a long way since then. How have HBCUs redesigned the educational landscape of higher learning in your regard?
Well, I think it's been alluded to a little bit earlier that HBCUs have done an extraordinary job of meeting students where they are and wrapping their arms around them and nurturing them and shepherding them to graduation and then beyond that, dating all the way back to those that started in the shadow of slavery, which, Russ College was founded in 1866. So we were literally providing education for people for whom it had been illegal for them to actually learn anything. So as we fast forward to 21st century, in some ways it's not as dire, but if you pay attention to anything going on in K through 12, it's almost as dire because there is a lot of dysfunction and students still know that college is the path forward if they want to achieve financial stability and be able to serve in their communities. So as students arrive, we're able to meet them where they are. I think in almost all HBCUs, teaching is a priority, whereas we do have some HBCUs that are research institutions. I still think that teaching and the relationship between students and faculty and what goes on in the classroom is going to be a priority at any HBCUs. And we know that that is going to result in more success for our students. I think also the fact that Black students hear so many negative messages about who they are, as Trevia said earlier, that HBCUs take on the responsibility of instilling that pride in Black students, whether that be through actually studying, cultural history and the contributions of African Americans, or also whether it be focusing on leadership. I think focusing on leadership and service is something that HBCUs do extraordinarily well. And that comes because we can't, as a people, can't afford to focus on individual mobility. We've still got to focus on how we can advance as a community. And that's what we're about here at Russ College.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. And that leads me to my next question as well, because the thing that all of our institutions, HBCUs, tend to offer is the ability for students to come on campus and see someone who can be an aunt or a cousin or a grandmother, or a father figure. And you see that family structure there. And you feel like, okay, I may have come 200 miles or 20 miles or 2,000 miles across the country, but I know I have people here on this campus that care about my well-being as a student, my well-being culturally and educationally. And along those same veins, as we do this HBCU panel highlighted during the month of Black History Month, it's important to underscore and acknowledge the impact that HBCUs have had on Black culture. So my question is, and I want each one of the panelists to touch on this briefly, is how have HBCUs in your mind helped shape Black culture as it relates to American culture in music, fashion, and maybe sports?
I will say that, everything that is all to celebrate about Blackness and its culture is just literally interwoven into this country. You think about the music, and even just from the HBCU experience, Beyonce and her Homecoming album, all of that was a tribute to HBCUs and the bands and the majorettes and all of that jazz and pizzazz that comes straight out of an HBCU. And then when there was another concert that came, a country artist who performed on a concert or an award show, and she came out with a band, and it was this type of parallel that she attempted to create. God bless her, but it was just something about that beauty of that culture that, despite all odds, that America has to embrace, because we are in the fiber of the food. We're in the fiber of how this country has grown. Like you said, the music, the sports, there are some amazing players in many sports that are of the majority. But the dunking, the catching the ball and running all, however many yards and all the dancing and when you get your touchdown, all of that is
Okay.
beautifully Black. And
Can
I
can
think
hold. You can't just give us a sample. You gotta, make
yeah,
sure,
and
for those that
all
didn't
of
see
that
it.
is the beauty of
Okay.
the culture of what we are in that HBCU experience.
Okay. Destiny, I want to come over to you for that. How is HBCU and the Black culture experience impacted American culture in your regard?
Well, I think that HBCU is a part of Black culture. And not only has HBCUs produced some wonderful musicians and talent in fashion and sports, but HBCUs have also produced some phenomenal doctors, attorneys, educators, CEOs, entrepreneurs. So, I mean, you name it. So.
That's a good point. One of the things that I also noticed too, I've been following sort of the return to school options that are going on. And in our state of Tennessee, the last two school systems to go back or to have return to school options were Metro Nashville and Shelby County in Memphis. And both of those school districts primarily have Black and brown children. So that's been controversial. But one of the steps that helped Nashville get back to school was Meharry College offering to administer the vaccinations rollout alongside Vanderbilt. So to your point, Delcinia, we definitely have an input and an impact when it comes to things beyond sports and entertainment. It goes into medicine and law and all of those other things as well. I want to continue to move on because I want to get to another couple topics of discussion here. We've seen the influence of Black culture permeate and thrive on many colleges and campuses. We talk about fashion, we talked about music, et cetera, and especially within fraternities and sororities. I didn't pledge when I was at Grambling, but I understand the gravity and the culture that comes into the sororities and fraternities. There's organizations that are always visible and community oriented. So my question, I'm gonna come back to you, Delcinia, first here. Fraternities and sororities were started on college campuses for African Americans. Strolling, stepping, and chanting are just a few of the exciting forward-facing things that people are familiar with and love to see. What other ways have fraternities and sororities shaped the college experience for African-American students?
Well, fraternities and sororities have shaped the experience for African-American students by providing positive examples for not only what we do, but how we do it. So looking to see an example, every organization has the principle of scholarship. So therefore, it's important to maintain academics, to make sure that you're focusing on your studies while being organized and able to do all the other things that you see outwardly. So that's just a reminder for the students to remember to focus on your studies. Another thing is service. So we all have the principle of service. So while we're doing the stepping and the strolling and the other calls, you're able to see the work that's being put forth in the community. And it also, one last point is that it is a beacon of community, because for a lot of people, it's the absolute first time they've been away from home. So to see the example of sororities and fraternities coming together and having that family orient, but not only just one particular sorority or fraternity, but the National Panhellenic Council as a whole coming together to do great things in the community.
Now, I also have two other Deltas on the panel here, so I would be remiss if I didn't give them a chance to chime in on that very same subject.
Three Deltas.
Three. Okay.
Hello, so where were you?
See, here's the thing. Dr. Taylor's resume was just so deep that she didn't even get the Delta in there, right? She didn't even get the sorority in there, so it's all good.
She completes that pyramid 3. That's good. I like that. I would like to say, I think that, the fraternities and sororities also provide our students an opportunity for a network that forces them a trajectory of upward mobility. Because a lot of times you think the students, they go and they come to your college campus, and some of them are first-time college graduate. But they're first-time college attendees. They're the first in the family to go to college. And a lot of them come with just like a blank slate. They have no idea. and they get to the college campus, they see, they experience all this, and then they have an opportunity to learn a set of transferable skills that they may not learn anywhere else, like leadership, public speaking, budgeting, event planning, you know, promotions, marketing, all of that. And when you couple that into the other opportunities that it provides, because I think about, just like Delcinia said, we all, you know, were founded on scholarship and service and brotherhood and sisterhood. And then when you think about it, those that have come before you, they have like an obligation. It's like a network, right? And you have an opportunity to provide these young students an opportunity to branch out into the world, because when they graduate, a lot of them, they have no clue. We all walk into, you know, college the first day and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I think within your overall college, you know, alumni network is one thing. And then when you break it down into your fraternity or sorority networks, you can always find somebody, and especially if they are affiliated with your particular college chapter, that, you know, can provide you that inroads. Because a lot of, I mean, just be really honest, it's not all about, you know, what you know, it's about who you know or who knows you. And so it's about that network. And if you can pick up the phone, or you have a lifeline to reach out to someone in your organization, or you know someone in another organization that can help you, you know, to be successful, I think they also provide that as those leadership skills that are transferable, because outside of being in the chanting and the strolling and all that kind of, which is great, but it also provides them another opportunity to be, you know, successful leaders in society.
Okay. Either of the other two deltas want to chime in, or did that say it all?
I was just going to extend on that point about folks who are first generation college and really may not have anyone in their family who's gone to college, pursued professional careers. You know, being a member of a sorority for me gave me the opportunity to be exposed to the sorors who were in the graduate chapter nearby, to see what their lives looked like, to be exposed to someone who had a professional job that I had some type of, I could have a relationship with, because in my family, frankly, I didn't have that, because my parents didn't have the chance to go to college, and I didn't know what life after college was supposed to look like, or what service to my community looked like, you know, in some of the formalized ways. So I think that is another advantage of the fraternities and sororities that they bring as support to students who have not been exposed to many things at a younger age.
Okay. Travia, you want to wrap us up on that?
Sure. The only thing that I would add, that my beautiful sorors have already really laid a great foundation for, is just the connectivity. You know, you have the scholarship, the service, the leadership, and that exposure that comes from the sororities and the fraternities, that you can, you know, be out trying to navigate whatever's going on in life or career, and you could have a flat tire and you have a Delta tag on your car parked next to another Delta, and oh, you got a flat. It's all of this is different, because it's truly a sisterhood, or the brotherhoods of having each other's back. And that is something that within our culture as a people, that we really strive to always have each other's back, because quite frankly, our family structure was not always what was the status quo. You know, grandmother may have raised you, or your cousin may have raised you. It was not always mom, dad, and a dog. So when you get ready to head into that college atmosphere from all of these different backgrounds and different ways that you were raised, those fraternities and those sororities just embraced you and just loved on you and said, come on, we're going to get through this thing together. And I remember, you know, pledging at Tennessee State, and how those were some of the highest GPAs that I saw throughout my matriculation, because we just really came together and we got it done. And those are the things that I love when I think about sororities and fraternities, just that whole stacking hands and pushing through.
Yes, that reminds me of the principles, some of the principles that Eddie Robinson used to talk about at Grambling, iron sharpening iron. And we bringing out the best in one another, pushing one another towards excellence, because we're all trying to achieve the same thing. Dr. Taylor, I want to come back to you on this level too, because we've talked about the sort of the fraternity, the sorority aspect of it. From the leadership standpoint, we know one of the biggest challenges of our HBCUs is funding and resources. Now that you're in this role here, what are some of the obstacles that you are going to try to navigate to help increase the level of alumni giving back, and also just working through limited resources to continue to put out a fantastic educational format at Russ?
Yes, well, it was mentioned earlier that most HBCUs have more limited resources than PWIs. And then I would also put private HBCUs in another subcategory, because we don't get that check from the state on a regular basis. So, you know, it's incumbent on us to raise money in order to cover our basic operations. So I think really the time now calls for everyone to be creative and innovative. There are a lot of ways that we can address raising money. You touched on one, which is getting alumni to give more. And I'll just speak from my own experience. Frankly, when I grew up, someone talked about, oh, we didn't grow up with the 2 parents and the dog. We also did not grow up with parents writing a check to their favorite charity, okay? I'll just be honest. In my household, it was all about the tithes, and anything after that wasn't happening, okay? So people have not, they may not have the that background where they have been taught that they should give to causes that they feel strongly about. So one thing that we can do as schools is ensure that we connect with students before they leave, before they graduate, to convey to them how important it is for them to be lifelong givers to their HBCUs. The other thing is that we need to remember what it feels like when you never hear from that cousin until he needs $300, okay? So don't just contact the alumni when it's time to ask for some money. We need to stay in regular communication and let them know what's going on the campus, so that they can feel that ongoing connection. This is an extraordinary moment for us right now nationally, and I keep saying, I don't know how long it's gonna last, that people want to give millions of dollars to, I don't know if they're assuaging their guilt or if they really feel strongly about, you know, equity, social justice, but an HBCU is the smartest investment that you can make if you want to give towards addressing those challenges that we face in our society as it relates to the lack of equity and social justice issues that everyone has a heightened awareness about right now. So I think certainly we need to capture that moment in sharing our stories with a wide array of potential partners. Sometimes we only look at people who look like us, but guess what? Other people may have compelling reasons why they want to support HBCUs as well. And then finally, I would say that we do have to keep up the advocacy legislatively, obviously for those who are publicly, you know, state supported HBCUs, they've got to stay in touch with their legislatures. But for all of us, we've got to stay in touch with the feds and keep the pressure on. I've been very excited by the money that's been coming from the federal government in the wake of COVID through the CARES Act. There's been a lot of robust support for HBCUs, but we, you know, that can't end, you know, when COVID is over, or once people have moved on from their current, you know, status as being kind of woke on social justice issues. We still need that level of support in order to try and fill in the gaps that were created over years of us not receiving the funding that we should. So those are just some of the ideas. But at the end of the day, and I hate to say this, but if I didn't say it, I would be remiss. When you get the money, you have to spend it the way that you said. You got to dot all your I's, you got to cross all your T's, you got to get your yearly audit, you got to make sure that your dollars are spent prudently and that there's accountability for any dollar that you receive. Otherwise, people will stop giving the dollars.
Remarkably said, well said. And here's the thing, Lori was shaking her head for the last like 5 minutes of what you just said. And I know her neck is probably hurting from having total agreement right there, but that dovetails right into her area as leading alumni chapters and alumni associations. And Lori, you can speak to the importance of giving through alumni associations and why the role of alumni associations are so important. Can you speak to that as it relates to what Dr. Taylor was just saying from the school executive and administrative side?
Absolutely. So, for so long, HBCUs have operated in a crisis mode. And when you think about alumni and when we go out to corporations and foundations to solicit dollars, the first thing they're going to ask you is, what is your alumni giving rate? And I remember the first time that I found out what Jackson State alumni giving rate was, years ago when I was an employee. I was utterly embarrassed because for so long, you go to these during football season, you see so many alums, or people that are affiliated with the university or have not matriculated at the university, but they show all their support, they rally behind a cause. And you have a stadium full of 60 to 70,000 people, but yet and still your alumni association is only representative of like 2,000 people. And the math just didn't add up to me. So when I graduated from undergrad, both my parents went to Jackson State. They met at Jackson State. That's I did not want to go to Jackson State Trevia. I actually wanted to go to Tennessee State, but my dad told me that somebody was going to he was paying for somebody at Jackson State. He just didn't know who it was, and eventually I figured that was going to be me. But my parents stressed to me the importance of giving, right? And I did see the many ways that they would give, and it wasn't always financial, but the time, talent, and also service. But when I graduated, I immediately joined the Alumni Association, the local chapter. And then I joined as a life member, and it was like $500 at the time. And they gave me like 3 years to pay it. And I mean, I had a, entry level job, but I said, I'm committed to doing this. And for me, because what I did see at the time were a lot of seasoned alums. I didn't see a lot of alums that were my age. And that started to become a problem for me. So I started getting really actively involved in Alumni Association. And so I became the regional vice president for Mississippi. And I was trying to bring a lot of my classmates in. I was like, look, we got to give, and we can't just be, buying, football tickets. It is helping the university, but it's helping athletics. We need to be giving across the board. And you can't, and it still burns me up to this day when I go home and I see all these people, and a lot of them from Memphis. They see me, they run opposite way, and I run behind them. They have on these I Love shirts and JSU, going down the highway, and I blow at them and I'm like, hey, have you paid your alumni dues? And they're looking like, okay, like really? But I have so many classmates here in Memphis. Like we have over 1,400. That's 1,400 JSU, like documented alums in the Memphis metro area, like Memphis, North Mississippi. And even though Mississippi is its own region, but we try to reach out to, that's our service area too. And I'm like, y'all, but why can't we have at least, 300 to 400 people in the local alumni chapter? So I see people all the time, and it's like, oh, I think about it. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Did you ask the registrar to think about it when you wanted your degree? Because you need to get that job. What about when, you wanted to pledge and you needed to get that transcript? Did you ask them to think about it then? When you affiliate with the university, I said, all of our institutions gave us the foundation that we're standing on today. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And so for so long, we have operated in the red. And it's because alumni don't give back. And HBCUs by far have produced some of the most notable alums in this country, in the world. I mean, look at the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris. I mean, she went to Howard, right? And so when you think about alumni giving is the lifeblood of our institutions, and we have to educate them, just like Dr. Taylor said, before these students leave our campus. A lot of the schools do have pre-alumni associations, but we have to actively get these students involved and stress to them the importance of why you should give. I actually, when I became president of the Memphis Alumni Chapter, you know, we were operating with maybe like 25, 30 people in the chapter. We have over 200 members in the chapter. And it's because, one, I don't give up. And I get on Facebook, I get on Instagram, I harass them. When I see them at homecoming, I give them, I got business cards made up for everybody, anybody in the chapter wants one. So you put your name, your phone number, your contact information, invite one person to a meeting that's inactive. Because, you know, we go to homecoming, we go to football, you know, all that, you see all these people, but then I'm like, but our alumni association, alumni giving is not reflective of that. So now, you know, we have, you know, Deion Sanders, everybody's on this kick right now. And I'm like, okay, you're buying season tickets, but are you giving to the alumni association? Because when you have a child, when your child, and I've had this to happen, you know, wants to go to the university, and then you want to make sure that you benefit from everything, a scholarship. And then if they don't get it, then you say, well, then you become upset. Why? But if you were actively involved and you knew what was going on the local at the local level that feeds into the university level, you will always be connected. And so when we start educating our alums on the importance of giving, and a lot of them know, they just don't. But, you know, you have to stay on them. And just like Dr. Taylor said, especially, you know, private institutions, they're just in a bucket in themselves. But she also talked about, you know, the staying on your state legislature. You know, all the schools in Mississippi have a legislative day. And it's important for us as alums to come out so they can see who we are. They have to know who we are. Because if they don't see you, then they just figure like, okay, we can just do whatever we want to do. And it's time out for that. And that's why, you know, I stress to our local alums and people that I know, the importance of why, I mean, our alumni dues nationally are only $50 a year. $50 a year, you spend that in 1 week at Starbucks. And when you start breaking the math down, and that's what I do, I have a PowerPoint slide and I break it down, and I have a little card, and I broke the math down on alumni dues national is $50. The local dues are $50. This is how much you will spend in a week. Sometimes you spend it on your hair. A week, like $50 a week for a whole month, just for your hair.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Lori. And the thing about it is that there's a cost and a commitment and an investment that comes with this. And it is a symbiotic relationship. And I'll be the first to admit, I need to give back to Grambling State University a lot more than I have. And I'm committed in 2021 to do that, you know, because I can't claim it and wear the t-shirts and brag about it and talk about my time on the yard without actually putting some dollars back onto that campus for what they've invested in me.
And even if it's $5, you know, I tell the alums, you may not be like, I cannot write a check for $5,000, $10,000. Now I know some people probably can, but whatever I can give, even if it's $10 a month, I mean, that's $10 a month that's adding to the bottom line. Yes. So that when our university president goes to the, like, you know, look at FedEx. I mean, they just gave $5 million to, you know, 4 institutions. Bravo for FedEx. And just like Dr. Taylor said, this is a great time, you know, to be affiliated with HBCU. I mean, it is an awesome time. But they also want to know, what is your alumni giving rate? And that's what we've started to try to package that message, is the importance of giving and why. Because every person, every alum at each institution, no matter where you've attended, we help to impact one alum at a time.
And one of the things I want to say about that too, because I want to get Corey back in here on this, is that we've seen it at the national level. You talked about, you know, some of the celebrities and the athletes. I mean, Charles Barkley has given millions of dollars to schools, HBCUs. We've seen Chris Paul launch a media company designed to show, spotlight, and showcase North Carolina Central and some other HBCUs in his home state of North Carolina. Steph Curry lending his time and resources to help reinstall Howard's golf program. So we're seeing these high-profile athletes and celebrities come in. And Corey, my question to you is that, you know, when those kind of players can do it and those people can do it and they didn't even attend an HBCU, why is it even more important for those of us who did? And I guess that sort of piggybacks on what Lori was talking about.
Well, the first thing you said is those 3 people, they didn't attend one, but they see the impact that HBCUs have done. If you have, like Lori said, if you go to a a Jackson State alumni, a football game, there's probably 5,000 people that didn't even go there, but they probably went to Ole Miss or Southern Miss and they're attending at HBCU. But you got some people that think they missed out the opportunity because they didn't go to HBCU. So if those three people with a voice can do it, and there's several others, I can't think of an NBA player now that donated laptops to HBCUs, and they got a voice, and like what everybody's saying is right now is a good time to give to HBCU. You look at TikTok, I mean, you look at the guy from the lady that from Amazon, she gave billions of dollars to more than 20 plus HBCUs, but right now is a time to give, and it's important. I too, my parents both went to Grambling, and not only they bought season tickets, but they would also give every month. But they both, me and my sister went to Grambling. So at one point, my dad figured if I went to Grambling and my sister went to Grambling, that was his way of giving back. Everybody has their way. It like Lori said, you can get $5, but I give back. A lot of my friends, one of my closest friends, he's a football coach there. So I'm always supporting, there's galas you can go, there are different ways you can go to support your school. But right now it's important, from the foundation that I created. If I can build awareness of having 4,200 kids, Memphis area kids, Mississippi kids in HBCU, that is not my way of giving back. That's my way of building awareness to kids that never thought of an HBCU, but are now going to HBCUs. And so it's important to really, really give back. It's important to stress others to give back. So without that, every university has a development office, and everybody has their own way of raising money, monthly, weekly, however you do it. But it's really, really important to thrive those schools. And right now, with social media wise, everybody has their way of giving back from just giving back money.
No, absolutely. Great points. So we have a couple of more minutes, and I want to make sure we get to a couple more topics before we wrap up. And we could talk about these issues, challenges, opportunities all night long. And I certainly appreciate all of your time and talents that you've lended to our panel discussion here tonight. One of the things that we also are trying to do here is develop the school to work pipeline, giving HBCU students an opportunity. The Atlanta Hawks just announced that HBCU alum and the late Sekou Smith, who was an alum of Jackson State University, that organization is going to create a scholarship and an internship for a SWAC, Southwestern Athletic Conference media student, to cover that team and work for that team's digital media network. I'm going to push the Memphis Grizzlies to mirror that program with everything that I have. And in some ways, we already do it. We just haven't formalized it, but we have to absolutely open our doors to students in the high school, college, and middle school level. But what I want to ask specifically to Delcinia and Travia is that as you visit and you talk about career development opportunities working in corporate America, why are more and more companies and corporations recruiting directly from HBCUs, and what kind of benefit is that going to be for the entire workforce?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the recruitment of HBCU graduates is not a new phenomenon, but much like what's going on in the current environment that's been talked about thus far, is the lens of recruitment strategies have refocused. The recruitment of HBCUs and other minority institutions of learning are tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion. D&I is necessary work. Companies and corporations, they're striving to eliminate like homogenous points of view in leadership and reshape corporate cultures to be more inclusive. There is tremendous talent that walks the halls of HBCUs. They have the ability to bring great change for the future. So I think that's one side of why that recruitment strategy is intense. I think the other side goes back to something that Dr. Ivy mentioned earlier around that economic opportunity. There's a tremendous need to advance racial equality and economic opportunity in this country. And jobs are a critical pillar when addressing the racial wealth gap in our country. And it's time not only to acknowledge that this gap exists between minorities and majorities, but to also do something about it. And I think that corporations have started to realize in the wake of everything that was 2020 and everything that's leading up to this point, and really seeing the tremendous work of those that have graduated from HBCUs and those that are legislators. We've already talked about Vice President Kamala Harris and how they're coming to the forefront. So corporations have the power to do something about those different gaps by addressing systemic issues in leadership representation. They're correcting long-term pay disparities. Then they're collaborating with others to make this wave of change. So, I mean, like I said, it's been mentioned earlier that we're definitely, HBCUs are the thing. The goal is for this not to diminish over time just because something has ended up on the news. And it's really an opportunity to embrace so that we are able, as corporate citizens, as a community, embrace these beautiful graduates that are coming out and put them on the same trajectory that other graduates have that are coming out of PWIs. You know, have those meetings set up for them, those golf games, those lunches, where we're putting those HBCU graduates in front of people that make career decisions and hiring decisions. And those are some of the things that I think that are important and what corporations are doing. Again, my hope is that it's not a fad. I would say that the company that I work for completely embraces diversity and inclusion and bringing in that equity into the work that we do. And I'm excited to see others that have come along. My hope is that it just continues and that it doesn't stop once the noise settles down.
And Delcinia, the reason why I wanted to come to you on this as well is from an entrepreneur spirit, building your own companies and having that, you know, taking that knowledge and that leadership from an HBCU and charting out and building from your own creativities, which is something that you've done as well. Why is that important to not only build the student on campus, but also equip our students with the opportunity to go and build for themselves as they go out into the corporate world?
It's important to know that you have the ability to be an entrepreneur and take on any deed that you can to better yourself. You know, my entrepreneurship stemmed from being unemployed because of COVID and trying to find employment, still seeking employment, but I've been unemployed since April of last year. And just trying to work the avenue, I just came up with what can I do to better myself and to try to achieve some financial strengths. And so that's why I started my entrepreneurship in small business.
As I said before, I don't want this conversation to end. It's been so thrilling and fulfilling, so empowering to talk about this. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of, we've mentioned some notable HBCU alums, starting with Vice President Kamala Harris from Howard University. Spike Lee is a Morehouse grad. Yolanda Adams, Texas State University. 2 Chainz from Alabama State. Rosalind Brewer from Spelman College. The influences go on and on and on and on. And you don't have to be a celebrity to have it. You know, you could be a normal citizen if you just want to give back or just share your experience from attending an HBCU. That's also important, as you've heard from our panel here tonight. I just want to have one last question, and I want to give each one of us just a minute, 60 seconds to reflect on our final thoughts and any announcements that we would like to share or final thoughts that we have on this panel discussion tonight. We'll start with you, Dr. Taylor.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be in this conversation, and I really admire the work that everyone is doing in their individual spaces. I just want folks to know that Rust College is on the rise. It's an exciting time for us here at Rust. We're looking to make lots of investments and improvements so that we can continue to provide a wonderful experience, an excellent experience for our students here, but also to ensure that we continue that legacy of creating leaders. On that topic of alums, person who attended Rust College was Ida B. Wells. And she really set a standard as far as her activism, her journalism, and her courage. And that is the model that we are following as far as how we want to invest in our students and how we want to inspire them to go out and change the world in the same way. So I just invite people to check out our website, www.rustcollege.edu, and watch us as we continue to evolve and grow. Thank you.
Ms. Evans?
So yeah, thanks, Mike. I do appreciate the invitation, and I thank you for the invitation to participate on the panel again. Always great to see you and my fellow HBCU alums and Panhellenic Council sister there. I just would just encourage everyone, whether you attended an HBCU or not, if you are a friend, a foe, supporter of HBCU, now's the time to get on the ship, because before the ship sails. I think our annual alumni giving is key to the funding for the university's infrastructure, their expansion, educational opportunities, and you talked about it a minute ago about providing opportunities for students. And I think that is one thing that we as alums of HBCUs need to make sure that we continue to put that in the forefront. And just like Travia said, I also don't want to hear, I don't want to see that the noise, dies down, after all of the, the confetti has been thrown and it hits the ground. I think we have an obligation to continue the great legacy and to give back to those institutions that have given so much to us. And so, and like you, I am committed to upping my game this year, my financial game at Jackson State University. I do give, but I'm committed to giving a little bit more. And so again, thank you for allowing me to participate.
Our pleasure, certainly. Travia, can you go next?
Sure, and as it's been said, I'm definitely appreciative of the invitation to join the virtual Connect with everyone tonight. One lasting thing that I would say is that the historically Black colleges and universities were created for the sustainability of African American education. We had our forefathers and four mothers and four uncles and four cousins that they literally gave their lives to make sure that people that looked like them would have the opportunity to have educational gain. And if we do not come together as a community to support these beautiful institutions, and if anything dies by the wayside, we have to accept that that's on us. And we do not want to see another HBCU have to close their doors or lose accreditation or lose any type of funding. It was created for us, so that means that it is up to us to take a stand up for them, for those again that came before us. So I would admonish everyone to get in contact with those alumni presidents. Lori will come after you. And I am so happy to see the way, and she works it, she really does. And for those that are not active in any type of alumni association, there's still ways to give. And check that out with your human resource department. They do matching gifts. Many corporations do. If you're saying that I can only afford to do this much, well, do that much and ask your job to match it with you, which doubles that impact for that HBCU. So again, at the end of the day, Mr. Wallace, let's embrace what was created for us by working to make sure that it's sustained beyond us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And I would also be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that each year during our HBCU and Black History Month, what the Grizzlies and our foundation do when we honor our Empowerment Award winners is donate $1,000, donate resources to each of the schools represented by our honorees. So that's something that I am so proud that our foundation and our staff and our organization continues to do. And it's something that we're committed to doing moving forward as well. Ms. Pegues, I want to go to you next for your final words.
Again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this panel. It's been a great opportunity for me. But I just want to remind everyone how important HBCUs are. And, it's already been highlighted that HBCUs are in the forefront at this moment, and employers are looking at HBCU graduates. So I definitely encourage everyone to make their donations to ensure that the legacies can continue, because HBCUs produce great opportunities for their students as they engage in allow individuals to learn about different opportunities, different cultures, and then go out into the world for real world experiences. So just encourage everyone to make their donations to HBCU. And as Ms. Chapman said, we do not want to see another door closed, because they were made for us, by us.
Well said, well said. And Corey, you know why I saved you for last, right? I mean, I got to give a G-Man the opportunity to have the final word. I mean, we're going to double down on that because I get the final word after you.
I have no idea why you saved me for last.
Take us home, baby. Take us home, Corey.
Man, anybody knows me, I'm always excited to, one, talk about HBCUs, and two, talk about helping students. So, I'm excited. In a month, I'll have the foundation's 6th annual spring college fair. So this would be it's been going on for 10 years, but 6 years of the spring is we done from the Hop-In platform, which allows a student kind of like this. Every school will have their own room, and students are able to hop in different rooms and watch a recruiter do a presentation, or watch a video of what that school does. How I expanded it more this year. Now, normally I would just include North Mississippi high schools, Memphis high schools, and East Arkansas. But with that Hop-In platform, it's going to allow the 40 HBCUs, and of course Russ is included. We're going to impact almost 8,000 students. So right now I have 40 high schools plus from Mississippi. I have over 32 in Arkansas. I have Texas high schools and Louisiana high schools. But it's costing $1 per kid to participate. So I'm excited about that. Right now I'm at 32 colleges. It lasts 6 days. It starts March 8th through the 13th. The first 2 days are Tennessee school. The first 3 days are Tennessee schools. That Wednesday will be Mississippi and Louisiana schools, and that Friday will be Arkansas and Texas schools. And that Saturday is open public. So I'm always excited to impact students. So let all your alumni know, everybody know that fair will be going on March 8th through the 13th.
Thank you, Corey. I mean, it's so well said. I think we all have gained, and I hope you all who are watching us have gained new perspectives and understandings and passions about historically Black colleges and universities. This is such an important time in our history. This is such an important opportunity. And that's why we're all here with you right now to share these various perspectives on HBCUs as we continue to celebrate Black History Month. Once again, on behalf of the Grizzlies, I want to thank you all for participating in our panel discussion. We know HBCUs have come a long way and have survived many challenges with limited educational resources and training options. Now, they are developing programs and majors and various course options, awarding degrees at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral levels. So there is nothing that you cannot get at an HBCU at this point. I mean, you just bring your interests, you bring your passion, and allow our HBCUs to do the rest. And if you're in support of an HBCU, consider making a donation, as we've heard time and time again tonight, or a pledge of support. And to see what the Grizzlies are doing in this month of the Black History Month of February and all month long, visit grizzlies.com/BHM. Again, grizzlies.com/HBHM. So thank you and good night. It was a pleasure having you all join us, and I can't wait to do this again next year. We had to do it virtually this year. Hopefully we can be around one another and in the same room and fellowship together the way we normally do this every single time. It's going to be an HBCU night. We got plenty of other activities going on throughout grizzlies.com/BHM. So keep it locked on all of our content and all of our coverage. Thank you and good night.